Continuous improvement comes in lots of different flavors and styles. I'm Bella Engelbach, and I'm inviting you to journey with me to the edges of lean. Episode 128, Continuously Improving Connection with Your Preteen, with Marcus Aurelius Higgs. If you're a lean thinker, you're probably working to continually improve your skills of communicating with the adults in your life. You may also be working to bring some lean thinking into your family life. But what if you have some preteens in your family circle? They can be very challenging to work with. And that's where Marcus Higgs can help us out. He works with parents of preteens to help them improve their connection with their kids at a time when the kids are beginning to establish their own unique identities. Marcus Higgs, welcome to the Edges of Lean.
Hello, Bella. It's wonderful to be here. Yes.
Thanks so much for coming. Marcus, could you please introduce yourself to everybody?
So I'm Marcus Aurelius Higgs. That is my real name. My father gave it to me. I'm a communication coach for parents of preteens. I help parents stay connected and build trust during this first identity-breaking moment or phase of their child's life. I'm a heroic life coach also. Heroic is a name of a group or company. And a former high school English teacher. Also taught elementary for 1 year. It's a big reason why I do what I do. And a life lover. I love life. I love connecting. I love people. Like, sincerely, I used to think it used to be cheesy, but no, I really do. And go on. No, that's really me. That really is me.
That's you. That's great. So you started your career in education. You've moved into coaching and these. So I think that, this is interesting to me. And you and I talked before the show. I have grandchildren who are preteens, and it's a very interesting age, right? Because as you said, they're starting to make a break from that parental attachment and become their own people and figure out who they are. And at the same time, we as parents, grandparents, teachers, and I think sometimes coaches too, because people who are coaching are working with people who have these wonderful children. There's just so much to learn about this particular age group, and I think it'd be really interesting to learn which of the things we do in our sort of adult coaching practices are appropriate and which don't work at all. That's that intrigues me. So, can you tell me, when you talk about a preteen, Marcus, what is a preteen?
Well, people develop, and again, I love how you framed the conversation, because all of this is just human development, and then make it age appropriate. People develop at different ages. So I look at the window of 10 to 14. Some people might say 9. Other people might say till 12, until it's actually 13, but 10 to 14. If you ever look at middle school kids, you'll see some kid who hasn't had their growth spurt yet, and then another one who looks like a young man.
And that's going on in the brain too, right? So what you see externally is something different happening inside the head.
Yes. And then we look at what are the common things that are happening as they're going through this phase. I say identity breaking phase, because life is continually asking us, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? But as their roles are shifting from dependent to independent, that's a big jump, especially for the first time in their life. And if we can be there as parents, coaches, sports coaches, teachers, trustworthy adults in their lives, we can help them make that transition better. Yeah, because there's another transition, which is interdependence. That is, how do you serve the community or the collective? Because other people matter. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting, because I'm just thinking back to my own kids. So they were in elementary school, they had friends, and then they went to middle school. And then as they went into high school, they developed actually a whole different set of friends. I mean, there's always the one friend from elementary school, but then, other friends that had to do with the place that they found themselves, or the place that they wanted to be in the world. And that was, it's just a very interesting thing to observe.
When you think about it, through elementary until young adulthood, like when we're college, university, and so on, our friends are chosen because of proximity. Oftentimes, not because of our interests or not because of what we want to create in the world, but it's because these people are at the same year as us. After that, as adults, we have to figure out what projects do we want to work at? What do you want to create in the world? So again, it's another identity question, but a different way.
All right. So I'm going to dive in with a question that, just based on recent personal experience, a certain young person that I know that I've in my family who is learning to be a musician. And so I thought, okay, I'm a coach. I can coach this person in learning to how to practice, because when you become a musician, you have to learn the notes, the scales, how to produce the sound on your instrument or your voice or whatever. That's one set of things. The other set of things is the foundation of that is, do you know how to practice? And when you go to your lessons, they teach you the notes and the scales and how to produce the sound. They don't teach you how to practice. So I thought, well, this is cool. I have a relationship with this young person, and I can coach them into a good practice or practice for practice. And what I found was that some of the things that I would normally do with adults, which are around experimentation, trying things and seeing if they work, with this particular young person didn't work so well, because to they wanted things to be good right away, and they didn't
Mm.
understand, that in life that's not the way that works. So is that typical of a preteen? To
I would say it's typical of some people,
Yeah.
especially, and I'd say teenagers who think, and preteens who think adults are perfect. Well, a, a wise adult, and we know this from wisdom, knows that, yeah, you will make mistakes. It's staying in that stretch zone, I call it,
Mhm.
between 80 and 95% of, you're reaching and longing for something. I hear you, and ideally they stay there at a long period of time, and they're
Yeah.
oscillating. They're going there, they're coming back. They're going there and they're coming back. Now, preteens oftentimes think adults are perfect and they're always getting it right. And it's like, no, that's not how the game is. So you didn't ask it, but I assume your question is, how might you help them practice longer or teach them the practice of practicing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'm picking your brain while I have you here, but in
Yeah.
general, what are some of the things that we might assume about adults when we're working with adults that are probably not true for people in this age group?
The difference between coaching adults and coaching preteens at this age is this is the first time they're really facing these stressors. So that's why they're more apprehensive. Like they're really new to the game. This is their first rodeo, literally. That's an idiom meaning, yeah, this is the first time they're doing this. And that's one. Two, oftentimes we mistake their lack of expression as we can misunderstand their lack of expression and we can write them off and invalidate it. Whereas really what they're
Ah,
doing is they're processing and they're thinking because they don't know who to trust now at this age. They're skeptical. And the reason they're skeptical is because their parents who've been telling them this worldview, it doesn't align or match up with other worldviews as they're trying to figure themselves out. And they've not learned what nuance is yet. Nuance comes later on, maybe about 18. But at this age, it's like, well, you're telling me one thing, but that doesn't sound right. That's not sure. And they're exploring other things, right? And the third thing is one thing that's different between adults and kids. We ideally have learned how to manage our emotions better. We have a bigger emotional vocabulary, bigger emotional experience. They have physiologically, there's a dump of emotions where the highs feel high and the lows feel low. And that is actually a benefit because it helps them go out and try new things and take healthy risks, ideally. So that's all part of it. And when you understand that, then it's like, okay, yeah, we can work with this. So those are the way this age is different from coaching adults.
so there's a lot of yet there. They haven't developed these things yet. And so it sounds like the false assumption would be assume that they're thinking like you, because they're not. They're absolutely not.
That's a beautiful point, Bella, because Ellen Galansky, she did this study, and she's a scientist who just wrote a wonderful book, The Breakthrough Years. And she interviewed for 9.5 years parents and kids. And one of the sentiments was that teenagers are immature. When you think about it, you don't call a toddler an immature child. You don't call a child an immature teenager. Rather, there's an understanding of this developmental phase. When you understand what an adolescence is, of a risky person trying things or not understanding it full, beautiful. You said not yet. I love that word in positive psychology, just not yet. So they're not immature. It's just that's not the right developmental stage for them yet.
And I never thought about that. We do say that they're so immature, but you know, they're supposed to be less mature than adults. So because they still have maturation to do it. It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think that, I think you're alluding to this. There's more and more research that shows that brain development takes longer than we used to think. Is that true?
I hear you say take longer. I wonder if it's our perception expecting things in a shorter time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Brain development, I mean, there is a peak of it, but it is continually developing over our life. And then eventually there is a decline. But yeah, what is our expectations? Kids move towards your expectation. And if you're expecting them to be mature or you're expecting them to act a certain way, you start treating them differently. And that's the Pygmalion effect. If to show you what a study is, they told teachers that this group of students rather, they're high achievers, and this group, they're low achievers. And then at the end of the year, the kids move towards those expectations. And it wasn't anything about the kids. It was two neutral classes. All that changed was the teacher's expectations. So the teacher treated them differently.
Wow.
Something we're thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, yeah. And that I can see how that plays out in a lot of different ways and differences between people's skin color, their gender, their background, what people might expect. That's, yeah.
And let's think about that in the context of kids and teenagers. Yeah. Oftentimes kids are described as the troublesome years, or the teenage years rather, the reckless years. These kids they always say, oh, wait until the teenage years come when they start rebelling. There's a reason for the quote unquote rebelling, or and that's what I do. I help parents make sense of that so that they can open up the communication.
So when parents come to you for help, what's the sort of typical problem that they're hoping you can help them solve?
Excuse me, understanding why. So the three things that we look at is identity breaking, and then collaborative mistrust, and then emotional management. But if a parent is coming to me, they may be wondering why their kid is shutting down. They may be wondering, how can I reach out to them? How can I connect? How can I be more confident in my connection with them? Now, mind you, that's when the problem has arisen.
Right. So you've already got a kid that comes home from school, and you say, "How was school today?" And they say, "Fine." And Yeah. You tell them about your day, and then you say, "Oh, this great thing happened," and they go and roll their eyes, and you feel like you've just lost that connection. So that's already in place. But it sounds like you're saying that there's work to be done before that happens.
That is why I do focus on preteens. A stitch in time saves 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is worth saying, not all is lost if you're coming with these issues. I mean, everybody has their own particular issues, right? If you're coming to me at this stage of the game, the work I do is I work with the parents for them to be regulated and to be trustworthy, present parents. That's what I call it. And what you're doing is you're creating the context for the child to express themselves when they do. And when they do express themselves, how do you meet that so that you can nurture it? It's not all is lost when the kid starts to shut down, but let's explore with curiosity why they're shutting down. And then let's also do what we can do, like what is in our control to create space so they can open up more.
Okay, so where do you start then? It's parents, right? So you're not saying we're going to fix the kid, right? Because the kid is just doing
because the kid's not broken.
Developmentally, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But they still
everybody has a role.
They still benefit from a relationship, as you said, with trusted adults, and if it's the parents, even better. If that's who their trusted adults are. So then, what do the parents need to look at in their own behavior, their own way of being, that helps them in that situation?
Yeah. And it's worth noting, no shaming, no blaming, no complaining. It's just rather, what are you responsible for? What is your role and what are you responsible for? And in the show up framework, it starts with a strong identity. Now, what I do is I work with the parents, but these are the same concepts you're then going to implement with your kid. S says it starts with a strong identity. Know who you are, know why you do it, using your virtues and values. And that gets into the specifics of it. But just know that it's something innate, meaning it's in you. And it's something that is uniquely yours. Virtues or values just means what's important to you, meeting your kid with those. H is hold space for collaboration. Oftentimes when troubles arise, people think, what's wrong with me? Or you're judging me. Why is it always my? And it's like, no. Let's solve this together. And there's also, again, a strategy on which you can learn to collaborate. It's called autonomous parenting. It's supporting a kid. In a phrase, it's doing it with them, not doing it for them. So they don't feel entitled, and also they don't feel as if they're the source of the problem. O is open up communication. Quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your communication. That means how you speak with others and also how you speak with yourself. my background is communication. I did journalism, and that's why
Yeah.
I love this. Yeah. And W is wonder and explore this world together. That's working on a long-term project that's self-directed. You're working on your thing. Your child is working on theirs. It creates a space where you both can come and talk about what you're working on. And so you can look at what development means. UP means unveil your potential, which means celebrate. We don't celebrate enough. PJ Fogg, you know? That's how you create habits. That's how you cement this thing of, hey, that is like you. So let's celebrate. And I know I gave you a lot, but
Yeah, that's a lot.
the broad
Go
overview
back to
is
the beginning, Marcus. Yeah.
the broad overview is you being a moral exemplar. I help you be your most awesome self because you are the adult in the room, which means you set the tone. Kids don't communicate fairly and kids are dysregulated, but I'm helping you keep your stuff together so that they can look to you and be like, okay, they're a trustworthy, supportive parent that I can come back to. That's really what the overview is. Yeah.
Okay. So that is requiring, well, I don't want to use requiring sort of in a negative way, but it's requiring the parents then who have probably fallen into some habits about how they interact with the kid, what the family life is like, to stop and reflect on who am I being in this situation? What am I doing? How am I speaking in any particular situation? And when you have young people in your house that are this age, life is extremely crazy, as I'm sure you know.
Yes, it is. Being on both ends of it. Yes.
Right. So that means then also then putting enough value on this work for yourself and your family to find the time to do that and to do that kind of reflection and work, which is not dissimilar from working with adults, right? Because that's a very common problem with coaching adults is that they want to do the work, but first they have to make sure that it's important enough for them to put time in their day or their week for it. If it doesn't happen,
It's called personal development. It is you're developing your person as it responds to what is. Yeah, it is again the same thing about human development, just age appropriate. And as a leader or as a even when you're working in a business or so on, the way you change the culture is first by changing yourself. Because people like us do things like this. And yeah, if you're the leader, you then say, you give the vision, yeah, this is what we're aiming for. And in order to do that, I must take on that role first.
right. Yeah, and you have to align your behavior with what's needed to achieve that vision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's hard, ongoing, but ultimately satisfying work to do.
This is life. Yes.
Yeah. So, what kind of things do following this show up? Did I get it right? Model.
Mhm.
What kind of things do people start to do differently or work on doing differently as they are going through the work?
Well, it depends on the person. Yeah. So where you are in your understanding, first, I say it starts with a strong identity. So really, what expectation do you hold of your kid, or how do you view your kid? Right? How do you view yourself? Because we have to start with what's most relevant, and that is you and what you're focusing on and what do you expect. I say one space that really needs focus is opening up communication because it's how do you create the space, the container by which both parties are willing to open up, understanding there's good intention on both sides and well-being. So, because as you start to open up the conversation, in sales, we say conversions are made in the conversations, but it's where you start to actually look at beliefs and where you start to actually explore what is in a person's head. So communication, opening up communication is a beautiful place to start. And where I see a lot of people, we all live in the biggest room, the room for improvement. So yes, we can always improve our communication. That's how it is.
So I'm thinking about going back to what I described earlier, the young person living in your house who is coming home from school and apparently nothing happened all day and they didn't even eat lunch apparently, and they didn't learn anything, and all of that is coming elicited from parental questions. How's your day? Yeah. And if you don't ask those questions, Marcus, you get nothing at all. You don't even find out that nothing happened.
Yeah.
No learning happened. So it sounds to me like you're talking about more than simply asking good questions. Is it no?
No, 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 no. Yeah, there are many
Yeah,
strategies more than just
yeah,
asking simple good questions.
yeah.
Uh, would you like to?
Yeah, I'd love to know. Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask the right questions to elicit that information?
Yeah. Well, what are some strategies, Marcus?
Yeah.
Two that come to mind is establishing you time. So when we speak about regularity, it is making time for small check-ins, whereas the kid can express themselves authentically. It could be kid directed. And when I mean kid directed, the kid discussion is kid directed. And the reason we say regular moments, regular times, I mean like the kid knows once a week when we're coming home from the soccer match, maybe we're going to stop by Orange Julius. We're making a ritual about it. And you sit
Mm.
down and you're like, hey, this is a moment to decompress and just let me know what is, right? Or it could be a walk around the block that happens once a week regularly. Some parents have dinner at the table, but not every parent can do that. It could be a 5 minute check in when we're going to sleep at night. It's something where the kid knows I can have your undivided attention. And I say it's on the calendar. Kids don't have calendars. Adults have
Right.
calendars.
Right.
But I know at this time I can be with you, and that creates some sense of regularity. And even if I'm not opening up at that time, I know that I can open up at that time.
If I need to, if this
Yeah.
when the time is right. That's so much like what we talk about in continuous improvement. Again, with what we do in organizations. As a leader, you can't lead if you're not actually dedicating time to being with the people that you're leading and dedicating time to that's giving them space to say what they need to say. Because if every leadership engagement is simply the leader coming in and giving a little speech, that's not leadership, right?
If we're looking at relationships, you make time for the things you care about. Like if you're
Yeah.
in a romantic relationship, you make a date night. If you have a relationship with a higher power, you oftentimes bookend your day and then you pray without ceasing in the middle, if that's you. I love what you said as a leader. If the only time you speak to people is when they did something wrong, like once I said twice I did good, heard it never. Once I did wrong and heard it forever. Like we need to have communication just regularly, even when things aren't wrong. So
Yeah.
that's one strategy. Another one, if you're open to it, is yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Because we communicate in four ways: speaking, listening, writing, reading. So a reading and writing exercise, not exercise, intervention, way of connecting, is speaking again to their virtues and values, something that you noticed, something that you witnessed in your preteen, write it out as a letter. And what it is, you're owning it to say you're bringing their awareness or their attention to it. And you say, this is what it is. This is how I feel. I'm proud of it. Yeah, so on, so on. But then you end it with, and if you ever need to speak about something, bring this letter back to me and you'll have my undivided attention for X amount of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And really what you're doing there is you're making a deposit into the bank saying, you have my support whenever you're ready. And that's going to sit inside the kid's mind. It shows that you care. The fact that you know you have support sometimes goes a long way without
Mm-hmm.
even cashing in on that support. I got this exercise from the book, listen, how to listen so your teenagers speak and how to speak so your
Uh-huh.
teenagers listen. Not a client, he was a friend. A friend did this with his kid and they were moving house and he noticed when they were moving house, there were ink drops on the paper and there were ink blots. And he's like, what is this? And he said, you still keep this? He's like, yeah. And she cried over the paper. And it's just, yeah, different people keep different things. For some people, it is words. For other people, for it is spoken words. Maybe it's a voicemail. For other people, it's a piece of paper. Yeah.
Wow. I really like that. And again, that's something that would adults too. I could, can think of anything more wonderful than getting a written note with someone said, I saw when you did this the other day and I really appreciate it. That was so kind of you, or that was, whatever it was. But that follow on then, this, like, here's your ticket for more time with me, for attention from me. That's a lovely way to open it up and to say it's okay to do this. Because again, in organizations, sometimes people say, well, I don't know if I can talk to the leader. Can I knock on the boss's door? Is it okay to do that? Well, now you have your ticket, right? And it's a golden ticket because the boss already said something golden about you, right? So
So if I could tell you a quick story, I started out at the school. It was during the pandemic. I was getting late night sleep. So, and my mother was passing. from COVID. That's just the context. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was frazzled when I was going into school. The principal, he stopped me because I was coming up with sunglasses. My eyes were red because I was crying based on some other things. I mean, it was going through human emotions. Yeah. And he said to me, I think there was, I don't know. I was integrity with myself, but I think people thought I was drinking, and I wasn't drinking in the morning going into school, right?
Yeah.
And he said to me, "Hey, if it's getting stressful, just know that you can come to my office when you're ready." And I remember when he told me that, and I was just like, yeah, like it gives me a space to go and talk when I'm ready. And just knowing that was a bit of alleviation, or a bit of, yeah, I can go somewhere. And yeah, I managed. I soldiered through. I don't know how you say it, but that was a bit of reprieve for me. And that's why, yeah, let people know when you're ready. I'm here.
Yeah, that's terrific. And so these types of strategies then give the preteen that opportunity to say, all right, now I've got something that's really burning within me. Now something exciting to share, or something I'm really scared about. And I know it's okay. It's going to be safe to talk, because mom or dad, they're not just about, did I pick up my socks, right? They're about more than that.
It's worth noting also, we're not meant to parent alone. We parent in pods. And when we look at
like
how
it takes a village, right? Yeah.
it takes a village to support a parent.
Yeah.
It's called allo parenting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mothers and Others is the book that's written on that. So that's why you need to find other people who are on your team, trustworthy present parents or trustworthy present adults, coaches you trust, aunties and uncles, teachers, and so on. And they may hold some other views, but you can coordinate amongst yourselves. Don't take it personal if they don't always open up to you all the time. But then you can also build your structure of the parent pod, whereas you can still support your kid. So yeah, look for that support.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Because that is definitely something that today's parents, there's sort of this expectation, particularly for the moms, that they are the sole source of everything for the kids, right? That they are 24/7 on the job, even if they have their own other work to do. So yeah, doing it in a pack is way better. That's the way the wolves or the elephants do it. Should work for
Yeah,
us.
and we have opposable thumbs, so we should do them better.
We should do better. We don't know trunks, but we do have opposable thumbs. Marcus, I also need to ask you about, kind of leading on from what we were just talking about today's preteens. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing about social media, because that's a whole other can of worms. But today's preteens, I think, have grown up through an environment where many of them were at home for a long time during the pandemic. We're doing the virtual learning. They may have missed out on some of the social interactions. And at the same time, I see on social media a lot of sort of worried parents who are concerned that kids, they need to be protected more than they used to be. They don't get out. They don't get the chores, the responsibilities, the walking to school by themselves that perhaps they might have had in other generations. Do you see that at all? And is it impacting the ability of these kids to develop?
Again, I'm going to go to the experts just because I do read a lot of books. Yeah. But there's Madeline Levine. She said The Price of Privilege. There's a book called The Price of Privilege, which speaks exactly to that. Those who do not experience particular hardships. And again, ones that don't, everything that eventually grows must first break, go through stressors, and then we're made stronger in the broken places. And what story do you tell yourself after breaking? That's a question. And when I say break, I mean, I'm not talking destroy the kid. But I'm talking kids need to experience challenges, conflicts, things that help them grow, because that's how growth happens, actually. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's worth noting, there's another book. I can't remember the exact name, but I think it's called The Creative Kid, The Value Creation Kid. And it's talking about, again, when we speak to our virtues and values, if we're working towards creating value, it's something that we're excited to. Like, I think we want to give back to the collective for the most part, because life supports those who support life. Kids don't understand this yet. They do or they don't, but that's why we have a conversation with them. And we're trying to move them towards being interdependent members of society. So I'm rambling a bit much here, but back to your point of social media, kids are forming their identities behind the screen, in a sense. That's the unfortunate thing. At this formative stage, they're getting their understandings of what life is in likes and and other images of all these images passing through their screen, their eyes. And then when the screen goes off, the question is, who am I? And I think that's actually, and I'm not, I think, and again, another book, The Anxious Generation, that is talking about why this generation is anxious. In 2020, we saw an uptick in mental health issues because I think, the way in my words are saying, kids don't know what their identity is when social media is turned off. And they think, what's important to me? It's likes, or it's getting this attention that I could virtue signal. Whereas what's the antithesis, or what's the opposite to that? Let's virtue spot. Let's let kids understand what beauty is with them inside their identity, outside of social media, and inside the actual community, the people who we interact with today.
And that means they need to be able to be out in the community and interact with people, go to the playground, do some volunteer work, hang out.
To go to a dog shelter, find out something that's in alignment with what you want to do, self-directed again, of what you're interested in. What do you want to create? What apps do you want to create? Could be, if they're technologically inclined. And then let's collaborate. Let's work with other people in the community. Let's go to makerspace or something. There are options out there.
Right. And then that's the kind of thing you're talking about sort of in the up part of show up, right? Where then that's something that they can then share with the parent, in terms of the parent supporting, not doing for them, but supporting them and being excited about what they see.
The wonder and explore together.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're wondering and exploring. We're building something. You're building your coaching practice. I'm building mine. And then, we celebrate people with their win. Yeah.
That's really cool. It really is really cool. Marcus, how do people find you? You have a book, right? Are you working on a book?
I'm working on a book one. I'm working on the beta program for the Show Up framework now. So I will be taking sales conversations. That's going to be at the end of July. So you can find me on LinkedIn and at my website, marcushiggs.com. I'll be working over a series of workshops through the summer. I plan to do this. You'll see this, the Goodbye book for my fifth graders. I plan to be doing it that I might serve their kids. That's the whole plan. So
the kids of your former fifth graders.
Yes. They're going into seventh grade now. So I have 2 more years. When they're in ninth grade, I want to have something to show them so that they can experience it. And then when they're adults, they can then pass these concepts on. Connect with me on LinkedIn to follow my work. And that's the best way I could direct you now. Hopefully I'll come back on the podcast, give you something more substantial so that you can learn more.
Yeah. Well, definitely. We'd love to have you come back. Marcus, what is your one piece of advice for a young person starting out?
Understand the word resilience and know what it means and live it. And what resilience means. So I'm an English teacher. It goes.
You've got to define it. Yeah, go ahead.
Saltar. The Latin is saltar, meaning to jump. Means again. And that's where we get to bounce back. Resilience means trusting your bounce back. When you fall, in every hero's story, you are the protagonist of your story. Every hero is going to fall. That is, every hero has scars, and in every scar is a story. That's how you gain your stories. So understand, when you fall, it's a part of the process. Be resilient, bounce back, get back at it. That's what I'd love to tell you. And that's what I'd love to live, to share my story with you. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. That's really good advice. And like so many folks, when I ask people that question, it's advice, not just for the young people, but it's advice for everybody at every stage in their life. So, yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what happens as you move forward with this work. I think it's really important work that you're doing.
Yeah. It's perennial work too. This is human development long past. So.
Right. But I love too that what you're doing is you're working with the parents, because then it's the parents' development as well. It's not just, it's really important. It's about how we adults are better adults to creating a better world for kids. So thanks for coming.
Yeah. Sorry. I was going to say putting our oxygen mask on first.
Yeah. Put our oxygen mask first. Well, thanks so much for joining me at the Edges of Lean.
Thank you, Bella.
This is Bella Engelbach, and I'd like to thank Marcus Aurelius Higgs for being my guest at the Edges of Lean. What did you learn from this conversation? What ideas did it spark? We would love to hear from you. Meet Marcus at marcushiggs.com and on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn or at leanforhumans.com, or comment wherever you watch or listen. Don't forget to subscribe. And check out all my friends in the Lean Communicators community at leancommunicators.com, where you'll find lots of great new content every week. The Edges of Lean is written and produced by Bella Engelbach with support from Podcast Inc. This is a Lean for Humans production.